One of the things that I guess we're pushing here is the concept of a gimmick. And these are gimmicks, and gimmicks have a bad connotation. And I'm going to try and turn it into a good connotation for you. A gimmick, a definition, is an object that appears normal but has been altered to serve a particular function to create a magical effect. That's a gimmick. And to some extent, with cognitive theory being something everyone has learned, pretty much that's a form of therapy that is taught widely. I'm very cognitive. I'm not going to say that the only thing we do with cops is cognitive techniques, but that's a big part in the therapy I do. And yet, I think that one of the things we have to understand is that we need, with cops, possibly most people, gimmicks. A gimmick, in essence, in marketing is a special feature that makes your product, in this case, therapeutic change, stand out from its contemporaries. It's often thought that the special feature is unnecessary. However, I would suggest that if we're going to get change and we have techniques that can be made to seem magical and special, that's going to maximize our chance of getting that change that we're looking for. Truth is, gimmicks do work. Advertising works. They spend $30 million at the Super Bowl because they have enough people to listen to their advertising gimmicks. And the commercials in the Super Bowl are always some of the most interesting to watch because they have contests to see who can come with the most outrageous commercials. One of the things that I believe very, very strongly, it goes with motivational speaking, is that when you have a client, if you have a cop in the room with you, you need to be a salesman, and I could argue the point that maybe your salesmanship is more important than the techniques you use, because the best, most knowledgeable, most researched therapeutic technique that the guy thinks is bullshit isn't going to do as well as one thing that he takes out with him because you sold him on it, or her. Let's take a look at how this applies to cognitive theory. Before I say that, I want to say one of the interests I've always had. I had thoughts in graduate school with all of the research that we were learning, and we would learn techniques, and we would learn schools of thought. We would argue and debate different schools of thought. But I never had a class purposely, as Gary and I talked, every once in a while something would come out, but I never had a class that's basically said, okay, this class is going to tell you exactly what to say to your clients. And I've asked graduate students now and then, again, I don't hang around with too many students, I'm usually cooped up in my office, but I don't know of anybody who really had that class that said, here are the scripts, here are the words. Even though good therapists eventually come up with their own style and their own words, what do you actually say? Albert Ellis, of course, one of the founders of cognitive therapy, came up with some very good ideas and theories, and we were taught them, but what do you actually say? Well, I'm going to take you into 2 sessions as I go through the ABCs, and I'm going to tell you, including the scripts I use, you can modify them to try and get a police officer into the idea of therapy, and then how I teach cognitive theory to that officer, and then how I teach that officer the different belief systems that cause different emotional effects. So I want to actually try and get down to the level, this would be in my office, 2 to 3 sessions at the scripted area, exact words that I use. In terms of the scripts, in terms of the gimmicks, and understanding how important the salesmanship is, a lot of times, and I noticed that when I was learning to do this on my own, teaching myself, coming up with techniques, talking with Gary, Ellis basically said, as you may know, or Aaron Beck, if you're more of a Beck guy, Donald Meichenbaum, that what causes emotions? Beliefs. Beliefs cause emotions, correct? Is that okay with everyone? Most of the therapists who are doing more than just listening and giving advice, actually, when I've heard what they do, they approach trying to get people to change their emotions by helping them change their thinking. And I think that happens because if you present a belief, if you say, that belief's irrational, it doesn't really meet your needs. It isn't based in reality. It's not helping you get along better with others, so we define that as irrational, and you need to come up with a better belief, and I'd like you to do that, and everything will be better. That sound effective? Does that sound, it's technically correct. Does that sound like it would be effective? I don't think so. I think what happens is we have to really understand that what we're trying to do is we're trying to change somebody's beliefs, and beliefs are not easy to change.